account, you go down to that bottom section of that screen. And that bottom section looks like this. So you enter your username and your email address, and can we emphasise here that for scouts and venturers, that email must be that of your parent or guardian. You don't want, for anyone under 18, it cannot be your own personal email address. You can look through the privacy notification there if you like. And then after you've done that, you confirm that you have read it. Into that, you create that create account button. That will create your account. When you've done that, within a few seconds, you will get an email that looks like this. It's now saying that yes, we've got your registration, but we now want you to activate your account. So you do that by simply clicking on the easiest one is that option 1. Click on the link, which we've actually grayed out because the link there is not. This has come from the last Jamboree, this particular email, so it's the wrong link address. But you'll see the link address in there. All you do is click on it, and it will take you back to that opening page. Any queries, there's email addresses on there. So what happens when you go back, take you back in, and you'll see that opening page again. But this time, you go to that top section, and you simply log in using your username and your password. Click the login button there, and that will activate your account. Well, sort of. First thing you've got to do is, before the activation will actually happen, the tab, which is the personal tab, you see that I ringed it up the top of the page there. Information is straightforward, just put in there what we want. Anything that you see bolded with an asterisk beside it is compulsory, and it won't let you move to the next tab until you've completed all those compulsory fields. Your primary email will probably show up as being validated, because that's the email you entered to create your account. But and it should default into there, so you already see the email address sitting in there. The alternate email, that's an alternative email that we want. If you enter that in there, and when you do that, you'll receive a validation email, which you'll see on the next slide. But down the bottom down there, there's 3 boxes. There's organisation, that's defaulted to New Zealand, and you can't change it. Select a role. That drop down just simply shows the various positions in Scouts. So you are a leader, another adult helper, Scout, venturer, whatever you are. You just select that there, and then you select your group or zone. Now, every group and zone is listed in that drop down. They're in alphabetical order. Anything starting with a number like first St. John's from Waikato, that will appear up the front under the number 1. If you're not attached to a group or a zone, just simply go down to national and click on national. Your photo will appear in that blue box when you load it. But that's save log on buttons. I've actually explained them later on as to what they do. But saving is actually automatic in most cases. This is the email you'll get when you enter that second email address. You get an email like this. The easiest way to do is option 1. Simply click on the link, which will be the registration database link, and then you click on that, and that validates your email. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do anything more. It'll take you to the website. When you log on, you'll see the word has been changed to validated next to your second email. It's important you do that because in an emergency, we may need to use that second email. So it's important that you actually do go in and validate it. Next screen you come to is your ID photo. You just load up whatever the photo that you want to appear in here into your own computer system. Click on that browse button, select your photo, and then click on add button, which is selected. Now here's a word from Rachel on this call. Answer me. Anyway, there's one person will get very annoyed with you if you upload photos of your pet dog, your cat, things you have in the past. We do monitor it and we reject the photo. Once the photo is rejected, your application comes to a stop and it will go no further until you put a correct photo in there. So the strong message is we monitor them. We don't want any nonsense with these photos. We want to see you and you alone, head and shoulder shot, and nothing else. The best one is actually a passport photo. If you've got a passport photo, they're the best. We can manipulate the photos if they're not quite right. There is an editing facility in the system, which two of us at least will be able to get into. To photos a little bit to get them to be in the shoulders. Could I have a plea, please? I do not want to see pets, things like that, appearing as your photos. Jamboree, this is the third tab which come up once you've entered your ID photo correctly. This just tells us what should come into the Jamboree as, basically. There that says defaults to a scout for scouts and troops and different options, leaders and staff. That option will actually change depending on what you put in your personal information in the personal tab. So if it says you're a scout, that field will default to a scout. If it says you are a leader, it will come up with the options that are available to leaders, which is basically you're a leader in a troop, you're on staff, whatever. If you're, I'll come to the venture one in a minute because the venture is a bit different. When you do that, you go down there and select your Jamboree troop down the bottom there on the left-hand side. Now, at the moment, what we've done is we've loaded in all the troop names from the last Jamboree. And we are updating it for the new names as we learn of them. Nathan is collecting all those names. So by the time we open this, all the new names will be in there. And where it's obvious what the old name was and it's been replaced, I will delete the old name out of it. And I guess my plea to Jamboree troop leaders who are on this call, could you please make sure that Nathan knows what the name of your troop's going to be, even if it's just a temporary name, because it's pretty easy to change later on. But at least when your scouts go and register, they recognise the name that you've told them, even if you go and change it later on. It'll then ask you whether you are a patrol leader. If you're a leader, it will ask you whether you are the Jamboree leader or you are a leader in a troop. If you're staff, it'll ask you. Oh no, sorry, staff. You won't see that. You won't see that button at all. The confusion that arises in that one is the difference between the Jamboree troop leader and a leader in the troop. The Jamboree troop leader is the Jamboree troop leaders. There should be one of you, and the rest of you are leaders in a troop. Medical tab, the Jamboree tab. This is the Jamboree tab which will appear if you are a venturer. So, depending on your age, it will default to venturer active if you are under ages. The system has been set up, so this just defaults. And if you're over a certain age, you'll be allocated to the JST, that's the Jamboree Service Team. That will default automatically. If, however, you are aged 16 years to 16 years and 4 months, you will have an option, and the option is showing there of Venturer Active for JST. So you can select what option you want to attend the Jamboree as. I guess the thing to think about there is that if you If you're able to go to the JST, but you actually select Venturer Active, then you have to pay the same fee as a Scout. So just be aware of that one. There's an option there to go as JST, and therefore pay the start fee. Medical tab. This one's pretty straightforward. Just enter all the data. It goes on way down beyond this page. Most of the, in fact, all the options down there are default to no. So if you answer yes, just click on the yes button that will be there, and that will bring up a couple of drop downs depending on what it is. If you answer yes, I've got some medical conditions, a drop down will come up, and we've got a list of all common medical conditions. You can just tick them off. And it's important that we know that, because if something happens at the Jamboree, our medical staff know. To emphasise that this particular page can only be seen by me and the medical staff and the troop leader. Nobody else can see this page. This makes all the information is pretty confidential. Next to kin page. Now, if you are a Scout or a Venturer, whatever name you enter in here, if it's mum, dad, your caregiver or guardian, whatever it is, this is the person that will receive the consent forms. Yeah, it says it there. So this is the primary contact who will sign your consent form. So please make sure that you've got the right person in there so that the consent form goes to them. It basically has to be one of your parents or a guardian. And you just enter your second.
Hey, Terry, can you hear me? An admin's just asked if you could turn your video feed off because you're glitching a lot.
Sorry, I can't hear that. What?
Can you please turn your video feed off because you're glitching a lot and we're losing a lot of speech.
You're only getting half what you say.
Ah.
Turn your camera off.
Hang on, I have to get out of here to turn it off.
Terry, use the button.
Should be down the bottom. If you go down, if you look down to the bottom.
Yeah, no, I've gone down there. Yeah.
There it is.
Well, you want the camera off?
That one. Yeah. Hit that.
They got it?
Perfect.
If everybody else turns their cameras off, it would probably help too.
Yeah, is that better?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, Dominic, is that better?
Yeah, that's looking better. I'll let you know. Thanks.
Okay. Anyway, that's it. So if you didn't get what I said, the emphasis on that particular tab is if you are a Scout or a Venturer, you must enter one of your parents or your guardian as your first next to kin, because they will be the person who's going to sign the consent form. The electronic consent process, I'll just go through this very briefly. Basically what happens once you've submitted your application, a consent form, if you are under 18, in other words, you are a Scout or a Venturer, your consent form will go off to that person you've listed as your first next to kin. There is an accept button on there. They go in, it goes into Oleans itself. They actually click the consent button, it comes back into the system, and then the system sends a consent form off to your group leader. And the group leader will be asked to consent that you have met the requirements to attend the Jamboree. So that's all done. We have a monitoring process in hand. What we ask is people check their what's name boxes, all the spam boxes, because sometimes that's where they go. So just make sure your parents or your guardians are aware that something will come. If you are aged 18 and you are a leader, then you don't do any of this, but your consent form, you simply consent to it in OLAMS itself. Once you've consented to it, that's the end of the process. So the process for anyone under 18, that is a scout and adventurer, will go through to the parent or guardian, through to the group leader or the zone venturer unit, if you're in a unit which is not attached to a group. And you'll get a PDF of the application. So I'd ask again, I guess, group leaders out there, you make sure that your group email boxes have been monitored so that you pick up these consent emails as they arrive. That's that. The last page is the status page, which you don't need to do anything about, but you can see what it does up the top there, the status, that is tracking your status through the process. It'll initially come up showing you as initial. When you finally submit it, it'll come up there as submitted. And then when we accept you, it'll come up as JLT accepted. But you don't need to worry about that. It's all automatic. There are comment boxes in there which only authorised staff can use. That's if we have things like a guardianship order, things like that. They're loaded up into there so that we know about it. And again, the only people who can see that are those who actually need to see it. No one else can see them. If you want to reprint your application, if you want to print it at all, you just click on that reprint button down the bottom. If you are staff, and it's not showing on here, you will see the a payments box, and it will have some due dates in there. You just ignore the due date because we will be invoicing you when payments are due. But you'll be able to see us uploading the payments into the system as they go through. We've probably got a bit of time if you want to stop there. Are there any quick questions on that set? Before you do, I'll talk through these ones. There's the compulsion field, as I've already mentioned. Of those three buttons at the bottom, the submit button, that's when all the information is being entered. You click on the submit button and away your application will go to us and you'll receive a confirmation email from us. The save button, you don't have to use it normally because everything you enter is saved automatically. However, if you go back into the system sometime in the future and you want to change something, e.g. a medical condition or something like that is changed, then you can go in, you can change it, but you have to hit the save button to actually save that because it will default back. If you don't save it, it'll just default back to what you originally entered. Log out, well, that's just that, log out. The bottom of each tab, you'll see a link to the association's privacy statement, which is slightly different to the Jamboree privacy statement, which is found on the login page. And there's the final email. You see your submitted email.
Okay, Terry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I want to read out some questions from the chat. I'm not sure whether you're able to see the chat window. There's a few questions here. One is, some groups don't have their troops sorted yet because they won't do that until later this year. How will they deal with that at registration?
Well, you can't. You've got to have a troop.
So
That's what I said before. Even if there is a temporary name goes in there, we can change the temporary name later on.
Okay, but so some groups are saying that they're large enough to be sending 2 troops, and they have not yet divvied their scouts up between the two.
Okay. That causes a bit of an issue for us. Yeah, all right. I'll just put one troop name in there. you will pick it up because it will exceed the number allowed on the troop.
Correct.
So we'll pick it up in time, but could I just make a plea with you? It causes a huge amount of extra work when we have to start changing people between troops. If you can possibly even allocate them to, I don't know, Timbuktu Troop 1 and Timbuktu Troop 2, and we can shut in, you know, if you know roughly what your numbers are, you can split them into two and allocate the same number to each troop. Then it's much simpler because we can then just change the name. We can do it the other way, but it is a lot of work. And yes, Friday, it's a lot of work.
Okay.
And at
There's
11 o'clock at night, sometimes I get a bit grumpy.
Okay. There's another question. Can you use the same email address for more than one child when registering for families that have multiple children attending?
Yes, you can. Yep.
Cool.
So
Thank you.
You can use the same email, and oh, I'm just not too sure about the password. I think you can use the same password. Hang on, just bear with me a minute. Oh no, I can't see it here. I think on the login page, it actually explains that. It says on there what you can do. But the short answer is yes, you can. You can have more than one person registered with the same email address.
Cool. Thanks for your questions. So we have Jane, who's also responsible for registrations, monitoring the chat. If there's any questions that we don't get to tonight, we'll collect those up. We may need to email you back afterwards. But certainly there's some questions here which we'll need to go back to the developer and we'll just check on the process. The key one, I think, is registrations are due to open.
Oh, hang on. We'll get to that shortly on it.
Yep.
Okay. Terry, Tanya has raised her hand. She's got a question she wants to ask.
Yeah, but
Tanya.
I can't see it. Can someone read it out to me?
Yeah, no, she's raised her hand. She will speak it. When you refer to troop, are you talking the 6 youth members or the contingent of 36 youth? The answer is a troop is 36.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And just to expand on that, that doesn't mean you have to have 36 people in your troop, because what we do is we fill the troops up with internationals. So if you've only got, I don't know, 18 or 24 there, we're going to offer you a patrol of Australians or Fijians or whatever. So don't worry about being under 36, because we use those troops that are not making the 36. We put their internationals in there. The other thing that I would emphasise, and we've seen this in the last couple of jamborees, is that people cut off at 36, and therefore some scouts don't get to jamboree. Well, that is an absolute no-no. Register. If you're over 36, let them register, and we will sort it out.
Yeah.
It could be that we might transfer, say, one patrol into a neighbouring troop, or something like that. There's all sorts of things we can do. But please, I do not want to see any scout denied coming to the jamboree because he or she is number 37.
Yeah. Sian has raised a hand as well. Sian, what's your question?
I just want to know if this recording is going to be sent out later.
It's going to be available on Facebook, and if you put in the chat your email, I'll make sure if you can't get it on Facebook that we'll get it to you by email.
Thank you.
Okay, look, can we move on? We can come back to questions. I'll go through the second set. The second set applies to Jamboree troop leaders, so I'll just go through it very, very quickly. What happens to the Jamboree troop leader is that you can see 3 extra tabs that other people cannot see. Those are those 3 tabs listed at the top. So you've got a filter tab, result list, and a reports field. this particular one shows the filter. You won't normally have to use it, but if you are searching for something or somebody particular, if you see that quick search right at the top, there's an arrow up there. All you need to do is put the person's ID number, the first 2 or 3 letters of their name or whatever, and click on your own enter button on your keyboard, and it will bring up that person's record. If you want to pick up some other things, you can use the full filter process, but it's a little tricky to use, and I'm not going to explain it here, but basically you have to select the field you want to work on. Then you've got that operator. The drop downs are showing there's the equals, greater than, less than, blah, blah, blah. All those, you've got them in there. Then you write in a condition. The condition must equal the field and the operator. But normally you don't have to use it, so don't worry about it. But it is there if you want to. The second thing you'll see is result list. This is automatic. If you simply click on the result list tab, it will come up with the names, the role, phone number, etc., of everybody who is registered to your troop, and that's automatic. You don't need to use the filter. We'll do that. And I guess while I'm here too, one of the things we find is that somebody has registered into the wrong troop, and of course we don't know they've done that. The only person who knows is the Jamboree troop leader, who says, "Who is this?" But you please keep checking this list, and if anyone pops up in there who shouldn't pop up in there, please let us know, or registrations manager Rachel, let her know so that we can figure out where that person should be, and we can change it and make sure they're sitting in the right troop. Sometimes it'll be obvious because there'll be a strange group name in there. You won't see the group name, but it might be someone within your own zone who's selected. If you've got more than one troop, selected the wrong troop. So please monitor that list, and any people who shouldn't be there, and the other way too, people who should be there and who are not there, let us know about them too, because we can go searching and see what we've done. And the final thing you can see is a number of reports, and we can change these reports. These reports will only print out information for your troop. They will not print out any other information. So that's there. We can add things like birth dates if you want them. We put the report in there. It actually sits, it's in there already, but it's not showing in this list. We can shift it to this list of things like that if you want them. We can do that. So that's the troop leaders. The third set is for staff, and again I'll go through this pretty quickly because a lot of you won't be staff. When you're entering all the data, because you've said you're staff, you'll see an extra row of tabs. The first one you see is the leader info. Now, if you have been allocated a job at the Jamboree, you'll find your job is sitting in that drop down. My current role is oh no, I tell a lie. Oh, I forget what's there. Never mind. Click on it. It'll be something quite logical sitting in there. And then tell us what your occupation is. Down there, the pre-allocated. Oh, I know what the current role is. Yes, it's whether you're a leader or another adult or things like that. And give us your occupation. Down the bottom there, the job allocated. If you have been allocated a job, click on that and you will find in more details your job will be listed there. Now what we've done for this Jamboree is we have simplified that job structure. So basically you'll find in there director of something, manager of something, staff of something. And that's the only 3 options you've got. And it saves a huge amount of hassle. So program staff, I think we've put the program bases in there. But most people, you'll just see you're either the director, you're one of the managers, or you are staff of that particular directorate or activity base. So just select that. Next stage is skills and jobs. If you've been allocated a job, you won't see this. But this helps us to put you into a job. First one up there, we get a lot of part-time attendance, particularly for program people. So there's a drop down in there that says I am part-time on-site, I am part-time off-site. You can select that if that applies to you. If you do that, then there is a special fee applies. And please don't ask me what it is because I haven't worked it out yet. Most people will be a full-time worker. Then you'll get a whole list of preferences under preferences 1, 2, and 3. All 3 drop downs are exactly the same, but you start in preference 1 and put your preferred preference in. Preference 2 is your second preferred preference. Preference 3 is your third one. Tell us what sort of level. Are you a highly active person? You want a desk job? Whatever goes in there. And if you've got skills, special skills that we could use, there's a drop down of particular skills, and if you've got one of them, you just select that. Eventually, when you are allocated to a job, that final box down the bottom down there, job allocated, that'll pop up with what your job is. Next screen again just helps us to place you. There's a whole list of certificates in there, like some of them C certificates and things like that are all in there.
Terry,
yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but you've actually faded right away. We can hardly hear you.
Sorry. Dum. Is that better? I might have moved away a wee bit.
You come forward to the screen.
Yeah, is that better?
No.
Hang on, I'll have to go out of this and have a look at my microphone just a minute. Wherever I find the microphone on this
Okay,
thing.
Terry,
Terry?
they're saying it's me, not you. So keep
Oh.
going.
You're fine,
Hello.
Terry.
Am I?
Yeah.
Right. Was that you, Jane? Oh, hang on, I lost it. Just right. I've got to go back in there, don't I? Rightio. Okay, so tell us what your qualifications are. If you hold a certificate that we haven't listed, you can add it under that add new certificate. If you are staff, you will see a t-shirt size come up. There'll be a t-shirt tab in there. They'll just tell us what size your t-shirt is. If you want any additional t-shirts, there's a separate tab in there. You can order them, but they'll be charged. So you get one t-shirt within your fee. Any more you want, and you're charged. Put the questions in chat. Do we want to stop here, or do we want to go in to talk about the fee?
I think we've covered those questions, Terry. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat or email registration.
Okay, we'll get to them right here.
We'll carry on now. Just mindful of the time.
Right. Okay, we're going to talk about the Jamboree fee. There it is. The Scouts 1190, Leaders to Troops 795, Staff 495. Venture are active, and please make sure your ventures are aware of this. If they default to venture are active, or they select venture are active, if they're eligible to select it, then they pay us the same fee as Scouts. The reason for that is because they'll be doing exactly the same activities. And the venture, if you're a member of the Jamboree service team, they pay the same fee as staff. All those fees are GST inclusive. The Jamboree logistical fee, this is the fee that the Jamboree troop has to add to our fee. So that's to cover the Jamboree troops costs. And they also collect, on top of that, which they collect the Jamboree fee for everybody who's in their troop. And where it goes. So your Jamboree troop will be telling you all about that. Here's the payments. Now, at this stage, we will be invoicing the Jamboree troops on the 30th of April. The invoices payable 20th of May. at the deposit rate, which is $200 per person registered. Now, we'll be looking at our troop numbers at the end of April, and if there's not enough people there to warrant us sending out an invoice, we won't. We'll just monitor it month by month, and as the numbers grow, we'll send out an invoice asking for the deposits. So if you've got low numbers, sorry, I jiggled my keyboard. If you've got low numbers and you don't get an invoice, don't worry about it. It's a decision that we've made, and we will bill you in a later month as your numbers build up. Staff and venturers, you'll be invoiced at the end of the month in which you register. So you'll get an invoice for $200, and that'll be payable on the 20th of the month following the invoice. There's that note there. You people will be able to see some due dates sitting in OLEMs. Just ignore them, and they're there for system purposes only. So just pay on your invoice. Final payments. All final payments will be invoiced on the 30th of September. So there'll be troops and staff who will then get your invoice for whatever's due. Now we work that out for troops. The way it's worked is we take your total numbers at the 30th of September, we multiply that by the relevant fees, we get a grand total, we minus off what you have paid as a deposit, and that's what you owe us on the 20th of October. But again, it's all done by invoice. Obviously, you want to check our invoices are correct. Basically, you don't need to worry about it. It's all done for you. If there are any adjustment payments, people pull out after the 30th of September, all things like that, we will deal with that as they arise, and you'll be invoiced or get a credit, whatever it is. Now, if you are staff and adventurers, please pay your own invoices and do not include those invoices with the Jamboree troop. The reason for that is we've got two totally different accounting systems running. For staff and venturers is one system, and troops is the second system. If, however, staff and venturers are being paid for by a group, what we ask you to do, if you want to, is give the invoice to your group, or zone, whatever, but ask them to pay it separately, not to include it with any other invoices that they may be paying. That way, the money gets credited to your account and not somebody else. We don't come to you and saying you haven't paid. Yeah, payments. John, do you want me to talk about this?
Yes, please.
Okay. Look, we are aware of the effects. Excuse me, Cyclone Gabriel. This had plus the anniversary day storms in Auckland. So we are aware that we've got roughly 30% of the New Zealand population has been affected by these storms through northern Auckland, Waikato, Coromandel over to the east coast and down through to the Hawke's Bay. We're working through a process on how we can assist groups getting to the Jamboree. We've already had one email from a group that is saying they had a patrol going to the Jamboree. What their difficulty is because of the state of roads, the silt and everything else that's around the place, they actually can't get out and fundraise. And we can understand that. I guess the last thing the general population wants to see is a car wash set up in the middle of a pile of silt. So we understand that. So we are thinking about ways that we may be able to assist. Obviously, it won't be the Jamboree. We're going to have to go outside the Jamboree to do this. And we'll be talking to people about that over the coming days. The Jamboree leadership team itself is meeting on Saturday, and this is on the agenda for Saturday. So you bear with us. We are aware of it. We have sent out an email to all the zones that we know may have been impacted. And we would ask zone leaders, please, to respond to those emails so that we've got an idea of what we're facing. Some of you might say, why have I got this email? Well, the reason is you might just have an isolated group that's affected. E.g., Waikato might be an example where we know Waikato in the main is fine, but there might just be one group sitting around the outskirts somewhere that's been hammered. So that's why you would have got that email. So that's where we are with that. Yeah, we'll be doing what we can, but I guess to be honest with you, it's not easy because everybody wants money at the moment.
Thank you, Terry. Just a reminder that we are recording this session, and the slides that you've seen tonight will go up on the Facebook pages and will be available for those who want extra copies, and we can send those out in due course. So once again, thank you, Terry. Jane, any final comments?
Yes, just to say that what Terry has presented tonight is your OLAM's how-to. Last time we produced a document. This time what Terry has presented tonight is what you will refer back to. So it will be available for you when the registrations open, and the registrations will open mid-March. We've put it back because of the cyclone and flooding, and just to give people a few more weeks to get ready for the registration.
Jane, can we say mid to late March?
We certainly can, Terry. Mid to late March. And we will be advertising when we do open it with the URL for registrations. That's all I've got to say. Thanks, Terry.
Hayley's hand up.
Hayley's got a hand up.
Yes, I was just wondering when we'd know more information about having our containers on site and things on site, when that might be released, please.
Yes, certainly. We've got a Jamboree meeting this coming weekend, and I know containers is on the agenda, and so we'll know more in the next few weeks.
Are there any other questions?
Sorry, just one more for you, Jane. In terms of the breakdown of the cost, my group and a few in the Rangitoto zone are asking how come there's a 27% increase from the last Jamboree. Do you have a breakdown of the fees for this year, please?
Yes, we will have that.
No, hang on. We don't break the fee down for general consumption, if I could put it that way. What happens if you are applying to a funding provider, then you have to come to us to get a letter from the Jamboree for the funding provider. We include the breakdown in that letter. Now, the reason for this is that several Jamborees ago we met with the funding providers and we sorted out a system, because it was all over the place. We sorted out a system as to how we would support applications being made by groups. The reason we don't publish this particular breakdown is because we do not want people doing it on their own, because the funding providers will not accept it. It's got to be on in a certain format, must be signed by the Jamboree director, and things like that. So that's why we don't publish it. But anyone who is applying for funding from a funding provider, they have to come to, I haven't quite worked it out yet, somebody, and then those letters will be prepared and sent back to you.
Mosgiel Scout Group have got a hand up.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just sort of more elaborating on that same question about the cost breakdowns. Someone got it before me, which is cool. But Are you saying that these letters that you're going to produce, so every time I have to go to a funding agency, do I have to come back to you or to whomever it is to get
Yes, and it's not, and
or an
yes, and let me
individual
be
letter
clear.
for each particular one?
No. It's,
Oh,
yes,
big one.
it's an individual letter. No, there's one letter goes out to the group that's making the applications. It's not addressed to a particular funding provider. But what the problem is the fund provider will not accept the letter unless it's signed by the Jamboree director and it is in the format that their association and the Jamboree leadership have agreed to. That's the difficulty we have. And that's why we don't get people. Look,
Can you not
they're
just make
simple
a
to
default
do.
one?
It's a simple email. It'll probably come to me. I generally turn them around within a couple of minutes, providing it's before 11 o'clock at night.
Okay, thank you.
And sometimes groups also want a specific quote because they're applying for a specific group of people. We will tailor the letter to suit that if that's needed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And I guess to be blunt, I don't want to hear a debate about how the fee's broken down. If I can be fairly blunt about that.
Okay.
It is not an easy task to get to do the Jamboree budget. It's a $3 million budget. It's spread over a lot of different areas of the Jamboree. It's not easy to do. Yeah, I'm sorry to be blunt, but I just don't want to, by releasing these numbers generally, have everybody starting to debate with me why this and why that. Because I'm not prepared to do that. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Terry. Thanks very much. We will collate the chat questions and we'll get those out and circulate the answers to those over the next course of a few days. A reminder that a copy of these slides will be online and also a recording online, hopefully within the next 2 to 3 days. So the next Jamboree Masterclass is for March 20th at 7 p.m.